Hey guys, it's time to do a review on this Schrade SCAXE2L. Got this last week, courtesy of Schrade, and convenient timing because we had some horrible storms roll through here last week. We actually had a couple of tornadoes, which is very rare for New York. So there's a lot of downed trees and a lot of downed wood that I've been taking care of this week, and this thing really got put to the test. This axe, I gotta say, we'll do the stats first. This is a just under 2-pound axe, 16 inches long, and these are just approximates, with a just about a 4-inch cutting edge on it. It comes with a 3CR13 steel head that is hardened and heat treated for the entirety, not just the edge itself. The handle is a polymer which completely and entirely encases the axe head 360, top, bottom, all around, and it's fiberglass reinforced, so it is very tough, with a rubber kind of grip on the end and a fire steel with an O-ring in the end of the handle there, which, let's pop that out so you can get an idea what that looks like. And you can see the little O-rings here that help keep it in place. Okay, so those are the stats. Why this axe, you're asking? Why, Bushcraft? You don't like synthetic handle axes. Why are you reviewing this? Well, this axe got onto my radar this winter when Prepared Mind 101 was doing some of the preliminary reviews for the Schrade axes, and he came out with that story about how he had a problem with the SCX4 and Schrade pulled them and actually made changes to the product and then reshipped based on his recommendations. And it really kind of impressed me that Schrade went to that level to make their product right, you know, and probably a big loss to them as well. And I just thought that was a really great thing to do, and it caught my eye. I said, if I'm going to get into a synthetic handled axe, this is going to be the one. Plus, you know, growing up in New York, everybody loves Schrade. I know that Schrade is made by Taylor Manufacturing now, but, you know, the name just still brings back really good memories of, you know, those old Boy Scout knives and all the stuff they used to put out years and years ago. And Schrade's doing good stuff, guys. Some of their new stuff, the Extreme Survival line, is really cool stuff. They have some excellent stuff coming out, and they've really made leaps and bounds. So, why do you want this? Who are you? Why would you buy it? Why would you want it? This axe is about 40 bucks, so it's not a budget axe. It's not inexpensive by any means. And part of the problem with this axe is people are going to confuse it for a budget axe because it does have this synthetic handle, which is commonly what you see with those cheap, you know, like $15, $20 axes that just fall apart on you. For me, this is a great axe for a beginner. This having a stainless steel head and a synthetic handle is pretty much no maintenance. This thing, you know, you could probably leave this out by the fireplace for a month. You're probably not going to get any rust on it. Number one, because the edge has an actual coating over it. I mean, this is a little, some of it's worn off on here, but the edge is actually coated. So until you actually sharpen it and wear down that edge, you're going to have pretty good protection from the elements. Even when you do, it's a very stainless steel, so you're not going to need to make a ton of work to get this thing right here, guys. And second, it's a synthetic handle. You don't have to worry about the wood shrinking or expanding based on moisture. You don't have to worry about the head popping loose, you know, because this thing is just fully encased. It's kind of a really nice setup, to be honest, now that I've had a chance just to pound the snot out of this. So I think for a beginner, excuse me, guys, for a beginner, this is excellent. I see a lot of reviews online of axes, you know, something in the same price range, like the Condor hatchets, where people get those hatchets, they bring them home, and the head pops loose. Why? Moisture. They're in a damper or drier environment from where it got shipped from, and it causes the handle to either swell or, you know, shrink, and it causes problems with the head, and then you have to reseat it. And some people just don't want that trouble, and I understand that. We all don't want to be axe, you know, gurus. Some of us just want an axe to throw in their bug out bag or the back of our truck, or put it in the garage for a rainy day. You know, not everybody wants to be, you know, walking around with the Grand Forest, king of the forest. You know, we all have different needs and all that. And I think this is a good option for those people who want an axe but don't want to take care of it. Great option. So you're going to say, okay, Bushcraft, 3CR13 steel, really? Okay. Here's where I kind of have to defend their choice on this. Number one, because it just seems to work in this axe. after putting this thing through a lot of cutting, a lot of splitting, chopping, delimbing, you know, I split some really hard maple with this as well. Check out the ant, guys. He's here for the video also. But I really did, you know, quite a bit of maple that was down. I, you know, cut some limbs. I even smashed some rocks and cinder blocks on the back just to make sure this thing was, you know, not going to fall apart on me. To be honest, you know, I just wanted to test it and beat on it and see how it was going to work. And the edge still is holding strong. It really did not lose a lot of sharpness. And part of that is due to the fact that they have a really good edge on this. As you can see, it's, you know, it thins out very appropriately for an axe, you know, for a small hatchet. It's got a nice kind of sharpened edge, but it's kind of convexed very well. I'm really impressed with the job they did with that. And plus, being it has that nice rounded edge to it, it really helps accelerate the cut and get it in there, you know, very nice. You know, it really does. This axe bites very deep into wood. You know, even harder woods like maple and oak and stuff. It bites deep, and I was really impressed with the performance as a chopper. Not the best splitter, but you know what? It's not shaped to be a splitter. Typically, hatchets, you know, aren't meant to split wood. We use them for that, but you know, they're only okay at it. You know, a hatchet is meant to be an all-around tool, not a designated chopper, not a designated splitter. So there. Okay, so back on track. 3CR13. Back in the day when people, you know, lived by the axe and died by the axe, not literally, but people would they didn't want a Grand Force Brooks. They didn't want a Wetterlings. Those axe steels were too hard for them. They would be worried, number one, that the axe would chip or break because they didn't have heat treatment as good as we had today. They didn't, you know, they just didn't have the quality of manufacturing that we have today. So it was always a worry about chipping your axe steel. So traditionally, 50 years ago, they did use a softer steel. You know, I know everyone says, oh, geez, axes were made better back in the day, but they did make them of a little bit softer steel. It just made them better. They were shaped better. There was more attention to detail. So, to be honest, you know, this being a stainless steel, back in the day they would never use stainless steel for an axe. It would always be carbon steel. But they would be something at this level. They would use a low-end 1040, 1050 carbon steel, and they would actually heat treat it to a range that most people would consider not appropriate today. They actually kind of heat treated them in that kind of 50 RC level range, which most people would never touch now. Your Wetterlings and stuff are, you know, in the mid to high 50s. So they left them really soft, and the reason they did that was to absorb vibration, the wood hand, you know, so that way if you're using it all day, it was a little easier on the hand. So using a softer steel like this lends to a more comfortable hatchet. It absorbs more vibration. It's easier on the hand, you know, especially when you have a synthetic handle. That's really important. If you were to make this out of a carbon steel head, it will probably ring like a bell in your hand every time you hit it. And especially seeing you have a hardened steel back here, if you're smashing rocks and stuff like that, I don't want to be smashing rocks with a hard steel. You're going to get, you know, chunks of metal all over the place. I want a softer steel. I think they actually did the right thing by using the softer steel, because this thing is meant to smash rocks, to smash cinder blocks. It's meant to be hit with other metals. And for that to happen, you need the softer steel. You need the lower hardness level. So I do think it's appropriate for this product. It's not appropriate for every axe, you know. If you're going to be felling trees, you don't want this axe. But for a multi-purpose tool like this is, yes, this works. It comes together. You know, there was some thought into this, obviously, and it comes together because you can use this to smash and chop, and that's a nice little thing, because you really can't do that with your carbon steel hatchet with the soft back. It's just going to mushroom the end, and you know, you're going to ruin your eye, and then you're going to have nothing. So I want to kind of show you. This is something you wouldn't do. We're going to zoom out here. This is something you wouldn't normally do to your axe. Why? Because this will probably chip your carbon steel axe or break it. But we're going to do it, because you know what? This is what this thing's meant for. Oh, by the way, this is our, I think, a 22-ounce S-twing here. So we're going to give this a couple wraps on the back, so you can see. did not deform the edge at all. So if you're going to be using this, it's not going to deform it at all. Didn't do anything, of course, to the front because we didn't hit it there. So we're going to give this a couple wraps on the plastic here, just to show you how tough that is. Once again, didn't leave a mark. And then just to show you, you know, if you were to accidentally hit a rock, the edge is very tough on this. So overall, guys, this thing, the edge is still perfect on it. Try and catch the light, right? For all that abuse, all that chopping, the edge is still perfect. This thing is still sharp. It still works great. I didn't even take the coating off the edge, as you can see from all that chopping I did. All that work I did with it, the edge is still fully coated. Now that's not going to be the case when I sharpen it the first time, but this is a tough little thing. You can put this in your bug out bag, you can put this in your truck and forget about it, and you're going to have a good axe for a long, long time. I can't say that about your $40 Condor. You leave that $40 Condor in the back of your truck and it's the middle of winter, you might have an issue. You know, you might have a loose handle, you might have a loose head, and it could create a safety issue. This is a nice little package, and I think, to be honest, in part of wanting to review this, I wanted to make sure all the other reviewers are being honest about this, you know, and not just taking the free gear and running. You know, this thing is very useful, very handy, and definitely has its place in the marketplace in that price range. It performed well beyond what I expected and is just as tough as can be.